All right, thank you for staying with us. It's just a few days to Christmas, a time of merriment and celebrations. But the scarcity of Naira notes has made it difficult for Nigerians to buy goods to take home this period. The scarcity has continued to stifle small and medium-scale enterprises and bureau de change operators where the bulk of the transactions are in cash. The Naira scarcity has now hit major cities across the country as several automated teller machines have stopped dispensing cash, while commercial banks introduced limits on withdrawals. But joining us to discuss more on this is the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar Mohammed. Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Compliment of the season.
Same to you. Now, the CBN, in trying to give reasons for the scarcity, said that it's because of the large volume of withdrawals from deposit money banks. And I wonder if you see it as such. Before now, what we used to know about this period is the scarcity of petrol products and all, but right now it's cash. I don't know if it is the ghost of last December still following us up till now. What really is the issue that you're interpreting?
Maybe we have to deregulate the banking sector, especially Naira note. So that it used to be fuel, like you said, all of a sudden we deregulate that. I think there's always a challenge when it comes to December. And again, unfortunately, governance is supposed to be a continuous process, and we're supposed to know what to do at a certain period like this. If there's any time there's large volume of cash in Nigeria, there are two periods: the election period and the festivity period. And so government should always be prepared for that. For the election period, remember what happened. Same, we had this cashless policy came into space, shortage of scarcity.
But that policy is not what it is right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you background. Okay. And then this period, this is the first time we're having scarcity during the December Christmas period. Like you say, we always have petrol scarcity, but we don't have Naira scarcity. It baffled me if the current CBN, with all the policy they came out with knowing that President Tinubu also stood against Naira scarcity and at his own administration, at the beginning of his own administration, we are having such a problem.
Right.
I think it's not good for us because, again, we've not recovered from what happened during the Naira scarcity the other time.
Really? That's what it is?
Yeah, because the informal sector was practically almost wiped off. And some of those sectors have not recovered to come back and during December period, the sector that drives the Nigerian economy is the informal sector, and it's largely driven by cash. You talk about the man that you go to the market, women, you talk about also those that sells goods, the traders, everybody. It seems to be transporters. Everybody seems to be driven by cash at this period. So it's unfortunate, and I hope the government should tackle this issue once and for all, especially at this period. And that's why the CBN came out and said they went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court gave judgment and said that this policy is suspended indefinitely, both the old and the new should work hands in hand. And CBN have come out that they have 3.2 trillion in circulation. So what really is the problem?
Right.
So they are the ones who answered us, because they are the ones that are giving out the cash.
They say hoarding. They say people are taking money, taking cash from the system and not returning it back. Is that how you see it too? It
could be like that, but again, that would be based on fear. Maybe they're saying, okay, they didn't get, CBN did not explain to them that by December, the old and the new Naira note, we still have to work together, because sometimes this news comes, it happens in Lagos, it happens in other major cities, the rural areas are left out. So that's why we always say the National Registration Agency should always be involved in issues like this. So it could be that, but again, remember that one tool that you use to control inflation is reduction in liquidity in the system. So it could also be like a tool too, but the CBN is not telling us they are using that. They are even telling us they have more Naira in circulation and people are hoarding it. So I wonder why people are hoarding the Naira note. People hoard Naira, people hoard dollar. So everything is being hoarded. So that means there is a challenge fundamentally with the Nigerian economy.
It means people do not trust the system and the policies of government.
Because government can just come up with policies of some sort. I think that's what people are guiding against at this moment. But unfortunately, I think, again, the CBN and the banks also are culpable, because You should know how much goes out. Sometimes you don't see this cash, but there are some people that have this cash enough. The CBN have come out and said, look, henceforth you can bring in 500,000 without penalty. So those that withdraw above 500 are supposed to have penalty. So who are these people that have been withdrawing and be hoarding? Right. I don't think it's the ordinary Nigeria that comes to take 10,000, 20,000 in the ATM that is going home to hoard it. How much of that kind of money do they even have to hoard? Your report just said about the Bleak Christmas. A lot of people are not buying what they used to buy. So what really is the challenge? Then you need to go back to the elite. Maybe sometimes they know what the ordinary Nigerian don't know in terms of information. And so that could be one of the reasons why they are hoarding it. But for CBN to say they are hoarding it and are not putting checks and balances,
means they know something.
They know something about it.
And then there's also the issue of, banks are also kind of pointing fingers at CBN, that CBN is also not giving enough. Many of these banks have also had to reduce their daily withdrawals and all of that. Do you think there's also a break in communication, so to speak, not just between the CBN and the people, but even the banks themselves? There does seem to be, is it a conspiracy now, or how do you read it?
I don't know, because CBN is actually the only people that can print Naira notes in Nigeria. So the bank cannot be culpable in that. It's only if CBN is saying that we are printing, and like during the scarcity, they made us understand that they were printing enough Naira notes. The banks are the one hoarding it. And now the banks is the other way, say CBN is not giving us enough, and CBN is not even talking if they're giving the banks enough. So I think regulators need to be on top of their game. If they are giving out these notes. Remember, during the other time, the CBN officials have to be going from banks to banks, telling them to bring out some of these notes that were being hoarded. Maybe they may have to do that, but the festivity period is already around the corner. And for it to start during December, it's not good at all. Like I said, the informal sector drives 80% of the Nigerian economy. And when you are killing that sector, you are almost driving 80% of Nigerians out of job. Yeah. And because, again, when you look at World Bank report that said over 20 million Nigerians have been added to the poverty level. And if you do that in a time like December, whereby there are a lot of people that their jobs really just stick during December period, those that do hamper, those people that will come and those little jobs that people do, labor. Yes. This is the period that they do it, and sometimes some of those people are not people you begin to transfer 5,000, 1,000, 2,000, 300. Yeah. They are mostly the unbanked, and most of these unbanked, the only people they know how to use because of their day-to-day living is the POS, and these POS operators are not having it, and those that have it will now hike the price. So it's more pain on the already Bleak Christmas. So you are trying to make the Christmas even a dark Christmas.
So invariably what you're saying is that the CBN has not been able to manage this matter that we had to carry over from last year or the past administration into this new administration.
I think so, because even the CBN, the current CBN management are the one that said that they should suspend it indefinitely. So I thought they would be able to manage it. But I think they are not able to manage it, because if you are saying that sometime in May, February, March, April, May, we had this Naira issue, and December, and we're still having such issue, that shows that there is really what they are not telling us. Now, other thing we need to look at is that you remember that the CBN said about 70 to 80% of our Naira note is printed by Security and Exchange, Nigerian Printing Mill. Right. So is there a challenge with that? Are they not able to meet up with the demands? Or those that are going to bring it from abroad, are we not able to pay them? We have FX challenges now. So some of these things might not come out in the open. They could be government one challenges or the other.
Isn't it important for them to, give a true picture of what the issues really are?
Sometimes when you give a true picture, you are giving your enemies more ammunition. I want to give you an issue of the exchange rate. Immediately CBN came out and said, you know what, we are going to pay some of the banks we are owing. Then they started paying the foreign banks, and suddenly the exchange rate went down. Immediately they knew that CBN does not have enough liquidity to meet up. Since then, the exchange rates have been going up. So sometimes there's some information that you need to manage, and when you are able to handle it, you cannot let people know at that time, and then you are able to solve those issues. But again, in the issue of currency, I think the presidency will need to step in, because it's a situation that President Tinubu don't want Nigerians to remember him, that the first Christmas under him was a very tough Christmas.
What can he do if the CBN that is saddled with the major responsibility you mentioned cash circulation, basically, is seemingly looking like its hands are tied? What will the presidency stepping into or change?
I wish I was the one that nominated the CBN governor for appointment. Then you need to step in there. When it comes to currency circulation, remember, you have to get the approval from anything that has to do with currency issues. If you talked about the inflation issues, you talk about other issues, monetary policy issues, it's strictly the CBN. But when it comes to currency, you need to be in tune with the presidency. And when I talk about the president, you remember when Soludo wanted to redenominate our currency.
Yes.
And Yaradua said, I was not informed, and it made him to understand the CBN Act says that I should be known when it comes to currency. The same thing when Emefiele, remember, he had to go to President Buhari often and on to explain to him and get approval. So it's not beyond the president calling the CBN governors to say, look, what the issues are. You need to address these issues. Even if there's independence, these issues, this box top on my table, so you need to address it.
And as a Wale Edun personality head, well, he's for the minister anyway, but for Yemeka Doso now, what do you think he needs to do? Because there could be, weight in the fears that there is the ghost, of the last cash crunch episode, still living with us, so to speak. But in terms of, where he seems to be missing it, if he says that there is so much cash that have been released, then where is the cash? What do you think he needs to do differently?
I think, number one, he needs to do something differently. One thing that we said that was the challenge is that Nigerians really do want to do their communication digitally, remotely. Most people, Nigerians don't really want to go to the bank always.
I even said that is also, helping at this
time.
So
some of them, the market women, we must give the scarcity during last year up to this year. I think January, made a lot of market women also started using their own POS. They started the digital, they started opening account. I got about 70-something Nigerians back, about 76 market women, those that were non-bankable, back to the banking space at that time. So now what they need to do for the CBN, they need to talk to the banks to have what we call a shared platform, whereby they have a robust shared platform, not the type that individuals have, and then you have the network issues, because based on the bandwidth, because based on the transaction that they are doing. So we need to improve that space, and I think that's what the CBN should always work on. Like before the Naira Scarcity came in, before the Emefiele issue came up, when he was the governor, we said it, and I said it on your program, that the first thing you do when you want to come up with a policy that is going to be cashless driven, you must make sure you have the infrastructure to drive that. So for me, I think that is basically what the CBN should be doing. All over the world at this period, there's movement of cash. Let's not deceive ourselves, because that's what makes it interesting. But even in a developed economy, you have movement of cash, but you have more transaction also in digital platform where cash could not be moved. Just talk about America. During Thanksgiving, they have a lot of movement of cash in between there. That's their own period, more or less like Christmas. And the monetary agencies, the CBN, their own banking regulators are prepared for that. So I think what we need to do is to make sure that we have our house in order, especially when we want to move to the digital platform. We need to do that urgently. Secondly, it's not rocket science to print these currencies if these currencies are not going to have impact on inflation. And remember before us, the former CBN management said I have 2-point-something million, I think 2.7 million out of circulation. And when they came up with the Naira policy, they got almost about 2-point-something back. It was remaining 900 million. Now, presently, the current CBN government say we have about 3.1 trillion in circulation. So there is a problem. Who is holding this cash? It's not rocket science to know.
But is the 3-point-something even enough from what you see? Do you see it as sufficient when you look at the backlogs of the last episode of Cash Crunch?
I think it should be sufficient. When you look at, if you pay so much, we are battling a monster called inflation. You need to control liquidity in the system. 3.1 trillion is even so much in the system at the moment, because you need to ask a lot of Nigerians, how many of them even have 100,000 in their bank account? They have about 200 million Nigerians. So that's a lot. So what we need to do is to really know And like I said, it's not rocket science to know those that are withdrawing from these banks. That's why you are the regulator. You need to know who and who. If it comes to involving the security agents, like it was done before, you need to involve the security agent. Who is holding this currency? Why are they holding this currency? Before you say there's an election, there's no any election. Even if we have elections, it's a by-election. Some of the elections are in a state like Edo State, and those elections are not coming out anytime soon.
Yeah.
So who is holding? So these are not things that are not, you can't get those people because they actually did not collect this money from third party. They actually collected this money from the bank.
So they are traceable.
They are traceable. So, and it's a big challenge when you make yourself as a regulator that you cannot do anything about it. You are clueless about what to do. Then you are giving more power to those that are involved in this financial crime. As far as I'm concerned, currency hoarding is a financial crime. You need to stop it and stop it now. The same currency you don't see outside, you go to parties that are from the elites, you see those currencies and you see the elites, clean notes. Yeah. And yet you've made us to understand that hoarding and spreading of currency is a punishable offense. Nobody, I've been quoted, nobody have been punished for that, made a public scapegoat and people to know that this is against the law. Nobody, even in developed countries, nobody wants to follow the law. But when you know the consequences that comes with when you are caught against the law, then you are forced to follow the law. Even in our own year, we don't have consequences. We don't because we don't implement the consequences. We have the consequences. That's what I'm saying.
Because I was going to say that we know the consequences,
but we don't implement it. People get away with it. Yeah.
I was at a wedding over the weekend and I saw this cash.
You will see it. Clean.
But you
new
see
notes.
The price?
Yes.
New notes, and the new Naira notes, not the old ones.
Yes,
the new Naira notes.
Yes.
You don't see the old ones in parties. You only see the new Naira notes in parties.
So is it the CBN now, from its body language, what are you reading? Is it saying that it cannot go after these people? Because it mentions that people are hoarding, means they know. But step to take is the next thing.
Remember, the CBN is not the end user. The CBN prints this money and gets it to the banks.
Yes.
So the CBN need to synergize with the banks because the banks are the one that knows who owns it, who took out of this country. Even if the CBN can, you see, there's a lot of tools that can be used to get all these things. BVN.
I think we need
BVN.
Okay, right.
BVN, we have the BVN.
Because I was really curious that, these people are traceable. So if a someone big goes to the bank and, withdraws this huge cash, transactions, how do you trace? Is it that you now call them and say the money you collected, the cash you collected?
Recall that before you respond. Recall that during the scarcity, we saw the
cash.
Yes, we saw these banks were said to be culpable.
Yeah.
They were holding this money.
Yeah, for their big clients.
And some of these big people have accounts with them. They may not want to point fingers and say, okay, this is the person, because they might take their monies away from this.
Where are they taking it to? When you blacklist somebody because of BVM, you blacklist him all over the banks. He can't do transactions. Well, I've seen it happen.
It's basically corruption.
What we're seeing here is the regulators not putting their feet on ground because no bank wants to lose its license. If you decide that every bank remember there was a time that we don't know how much we're giving to states, how much was given to local government, and after that, it came a minister, I think Gozum Konjenwela, he said, you know what, we'll publish in national dailies how much each state receives every year, every month. And that became what people now, so if you receive so much, why are you not doing this? Right. So sometimes maybe the CBN may have to use that as a tool also to begin to tell us that, you know what, let us know how much each bank we're giving. Because sometimes when you look at the banks that have the wider spreads into the rural area, might need more of those currencies than those that have.
Absolutely.
I mean, in some areas, some banks have branches all over Nigeria. You can't be giving those branches less than what they used to have before. So there's a challenge. But before now, one thing I've seen is that during festivity period, you see billion van move from point A to point B, point A to point B, point A to point B. But during this period, I have not seen that, and those movement was as a result of cash. And since we had this cashless policy issue, shortage of currency, I have not seen so much of billion van movement around, within Lagos like it used to be before. So that shows that there is something they are doing right, and maybe somebody is trying to sabotage them, and they are not stepping up to do that. Because remember that cash movement also is a business of particular individuals.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because it's a private-driven business now.
Right.
How much have you stopped those people? So are they the ones now using their clients to sabotage it? And let me tell you, some of these cash were not withdrawn at once. Sometimes this withdrawal may have been coming sometime in October, November, December. They are very careful in their planning, strategic in their planning.
Ahead of the festive
Absolutely, of the festive period. So you as a regulator, as a bank, you need to be up your game. It's just like crime. They say the criminals, they up their game. And if the security agent does not up their game, the criminals tend to get the best out of them. So I think we need to do more. And I expected this CBN governor. I never thought we should be talking about cash scarcity with this current management of CBN.
So what do you think the president will do now if he's to step in? What kind of directive is he going to give the CBN? What should we expect if he's to step in?
I think he has to step in, either publicly or behind the scene. And with the president, I know, hearing the cry of the people, he is a grassroots politician. And I'm sure some of the grassroots must have been crying to him and saying, Mr. President, we are not having cash. Our people are suffering. I think he has to step in.
Is it going to be a matter of injecting more monies into the system as it is? Because we have mentioned that
there's a short-term measure that should be adopted.
Right. Definitely,
this is a critical period.
Production.
Yeah, this is a critical period in the Nigerian economy, especially with this informal sector. You need to step in to make sure that this sector is not formally put to death, because this is a sector that is trying to come back to life after what happened before. So the short-term measures could be you get to print in more liquidity into the system.
That's a short-term.
That could be a short-term message to make sure so that people don't have a blink Christmas. If you are saying the banks are saying they don't have cash, you saying they're holding cash. So print those cash in now. Let's see how it could have an impact on inflation that's almost 30%. But then, what is the use of controlling inflation when your people are hungry? They're having a blink Christmas. They cannot purchase what they cannot even have. The little they have, they cannot have access to it to have a good period. And this is a period that family normally comes together. This is a period that people in town go to their villages to spend more time.
This is also the period those children move around homes where you want to
expecting
small cash.
Small cash. So it's really it's our tradition.
Right.
So if it means that you know that you are coming to a period, then you have to up your game. Either you bring in more liquidity into the system during this period, and then after the period, you can decide to withdraw some of this liquidity. It's not rocket science. You can actually do it.
That's for the short term. How about the long term?
The long-term measures is build the infrastructure. We need to go cashless. I'm a total supporter of cashless policy. I don't see any reason why somebody should be having up to 100,000 naira cash in his hands, going about with that. It's just like you're telling an American to even have, American, I'm going 5. In UK, you have 500 pounds. In the higher denominator, 50 pounds, and you take it to go to a supermarket and you are giving it, they tend to begin to look at you, that what's wrong with you? You have to go to the machine to be sure that this is not fake. So every economy has gone cashless because that is the new normal.
But we have not been able to bring in the unbanked into the system.
Because we have all the apparatus to bring in of the unbanked. In Kenya, Safaricom, a telecom company, have captured over 90% of Kenya rural area. And they no more do transaction in cash, just with their phones.
Even in the rural areas?
Even in the rural areas. Safaricom. Don't forget that we've licensed, most of our mobile phone operators have licenses to operate as money agents. How much do they have in terms of infrastructure to operate in the rural area? Because when we talk about the unbankable Nigerian, we're talking about the Nigerians in the rural area. The Nigerians in the rural area are up to like 70 to 80% of Nigerians lives in the rural area. And these are the farmers. And that, again, could be responsible. Because if they don't have cash to buy product, how would they be able to produce? You are not only trying to couple the Nigerian people, you also will drive inflation high because cost of goods and services will go up if these people have to sort for cash somehow.
But let me quickly comment. You see, in our Nigerian reality, you could count the number of ordinary POS operators you will see in the rural areas. Those the ones that are there, they have limited cash to spend. You can also count the number of banks there. So it appears that infrastructure investment would also need to be concentrated by CBN, by the banks, and even this mobile bank operators. Or what do you think?
See, sometimes you have what you call social investments. So some businesses only go to social investment after you have made so much profit. Now, why would that be difficult? Is that when you are beginning to talk about infrastructure is not going to come free. And with FX challenges now, when you're getting all this infrastructure, even if you have reduced duty on telecoms equipment, now if you take it to the rural area, to the unbank, how much of this unbank are going to bank, and how much profit will you make? So that's why I'm saying that the only way this can work is when the bank comes together through the help of the CBN to have a shared infrastructure. That will be able to make every bank to maximize profits. That's what is done in America. Most banks have shared infrastructure, even the bigger banks. What I mean by shared infrastructure, you are not the only one saying, oh, I'm controlling this bandwidth. When you come together, you get a big bandwidth, and everybody can do transactions through that. We've seen that in the telecom sector when it comes to international calls. So how can we implement that in the banking sector?
Putting into cognizance our peculiarities.
Yes, putting in consideration our peculiarity of our rural area, because if we are beginning to have shared infrastructure, that means the cost of maintenance of that infrastructure will be shared among all of us, and then we'll be able to make sure that we are able to reach a lot of people with little of our capital being put in there, and we'll be able to make profit.
Even though it's
capitalism is all about.
Even though it's a competitive business.
No, when you talk about shared infrastructure, I'm not taking your clients from you.
Okay.
I'm just saying we could share this infrastructure. It's going to be the same speed, you and I, so it's not based on my marketing skill and other values that will make people want to bank with me instead of bank with you. It's value creation. Anybody that bank with a bank is based on the value. Some of them bank with bank because they are close to their houses. Some of them bank with bank because of the kind of services those banks give to them. So all this, and you know the funny thing is that we have the fintech.
Right.
So you need to empower that sector also. Rather than empower the sector, the fintech, CBN is already talking that some of these fintechs are not registered with them.
Yeah.
They have to come and register with them. So there's panic also in the system.
Yes.
This could also be responsible. People say, oh, the fintech that we know that is very convenient for us to use, that is fast, they may be without money very soon because they are going to be removed out of those platforms. Let me go and get my cash now. So there's a lot of things that are involved in this. Sometimes when you come up with policy, timing is very, very important. Especially in a time like this, is the best of time for Nigerians. I know a lot, especially the consumer goods sector of the Nigerian economy, has not recovered from the cashless, from the scarcity that we had before.
And
they've not recovered.
The fintech companies helped at the time.
At the time, they came in, they stepped in and closed that gap. Yeah. And that's why so many Nigerians now, especially the market women, now have
used those accounts.
Use those accounts. A particular fintech company is the toast of every Nigerian in the rural area because of the speed in terms of how they execute their businesses.
We have a lot to go because one thing I'm picking out of all of this is trust is still a major factor that the CBN and every other person has to work on.
Yeah, when you have an injury, and the injury is gone, the scar might still be there.
Right.
So most Nigerians still have the scars of the scarcity. And they say in this festivity period, like I said, some of them must have been doing it strategically, thinking that in December, because the Supreme Court have saying that the old note will cease to exist in December. What of it by December? We no more have that note.
I had to educate someone that the government has said that, yes, both old and new are now legal tender.
That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying, that some of the people in the rural area, even in the urban area, may not have gotten this information.
We have to leave this conversation now. CEO Finance with Mukhtar Mohammed, thank you for your time on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.